Hi everyone, it's Tim Spector here of the Zoe COVID study giving you this week's update. And we're going to be talking about how cases have gone up a little bit since last week, but hospitalisations have come down, which is good news. And of course we'll be comparing ourselves internationally around the world, both with cases and also how we're doing on the vaccination front. And finally a little bit of news about some new data that you've been giving us, telling us how important to your future risk it is if you've already had COVID and then had a vaccination. So let's get cracking on with the data. And as I said, cases are no longer dropping, and we're seeing around 58,000 cases per day now, and 14,300 of those have been fully vaccinated. So there's been a slight change in that ratio. Less fully vaccinated people as a proportion compared to the last couple of weeks, and that's about 25%. And the R value for the UK is now up slightly at 1.1, showing this slight trend. Deaths have averaged out about 133 over the last week, which is down slightly, but again is still high. Long COVID, 804 people we estimated will have got it today, and hospitalisations are around 5,200 new people going into hospital last week, which is down slightly, but remember we've still got about 800 people on mechanical ventilators and ITU, taking up a lot of resources, and many of those won't make it. So where are these increased cases that we're seeing this week coming from? Best way to look at this is our graphs where we break people down by age, and we can see quite big differences in your risk in the different age groups. And if we see that the original peaks we had earlier in the summer were coming from young people in their 20s, which has come down right now. The last 3 weeks we've really been seeing this increase in the kids aged under, in the 0 to 18-year-olds. That's the blue line that has gone up quite sharply, still increasing but not as fast as it was. And this is likely to be the effect of going back to school. But if you look just below that at the red and the green lines, these are people in their 30s and 40s who are starting to tick up as well, and many of them may well be the parents who are mixing with these infected kids. So I think this is likely to be driving the source infection for the next few weeks. And we have seen this before. If you remember last September when schools went back, we saw a big surge in not only colds but also COVID in kids, and that did translate to increases in the parents. Now the only sort of good news here is that we are not seeing the changes so far in the elderly. The over 50s really haven't moved at all, and they would be the main source of hospitalisations. But I think everyone is expecting the effect of Freshers' Week, universities going back, and the kids in the sort of 18 to 21-year-old group fueling some more infections. But the lesson here is this is where we're going to be seeing the problem for the next few weeks in this 30 to 50-year-old age group. And so if your kids at school, do be a bit careful about mixing, particularly with vulnerable or elderly relatives for the next couple of weeks. And again, do take signs of a cold very seriously and get your lateral flow tested. And if we do that, we can keep this under control. Now let's look at what's happening across the country in your region. So across the UK, not really seeing any major reductions, and there are some areas that are going up, and the ones this week to watch are still the Midlands and the northeast and northwest of England predominantly. and this is starting to open up a bit of a north-south gap as we've seen before in this pandemic, with about double the rates in those places. And some of them, like the Midlands, do have limited hospital capacity, so it's important we keep an eye on that, although, as we've said, hospitalisations have come down this week, which has taken a bit of the pressure off for the moment. Now let's look and see how the UK is doing on the international scene. Now, the good news is that if we compare our admissions to other countries, we are seeing a decline, as we mentioned, but the admission rate per million population is still one of the highest in Europe, and that's nothing really to be proud of. And we are seeing that other countries are also coming down, and this is generally good news that perhaps we're seeing less severe disease across the board. Now, as well as having one of the highest hospital admission rates in Europe, we also have slipped really from pole position on the vaccine race early in the year to middle table, and this graph here shows you how we're doing against other countries. So really they started after us, but they've continued to accelerate as our vaccine program has rather faltered, and we're now being quite clearly beaten by countries like Portugal, Spain, Denmark, Italy, France, Ireland, and we are still ahead of the United States and Israel, but absolutely no reason for complacency, because it looks like we're losing ground here. And some of this is due to those other countries realizing they had problems introducing vaccine passports, which, whether you like them or not, did seem to have a good effect on getting those rates up towards 75–80% of the population. So perhaps if Boris were to mention there was absolutely no danger of vaccines running out, that would stimulate more people to take up the vaccines and instead of queuing for petrol. But I think these graphs do illustrate that the importance of either having a very good vaccination program with a high percentage. We may need to get towards 85% to be really efficient, or you need some form of social restrictions or a good combination of both. So let's now have a talk about vaccination status and some new data that's we've just been analysing. Now, you may remember we talked about vaccines waning, both the AstraZeneca and the Pfizer, at 3 to 6 months, both amazingly effective in those early few months, and as probably expected, starting to see some waning of effect at 4 to 6 months, as you can see in this graph, where you can see the difference between the dark blue and the light blue lines, just showing a suggestion that these effects are waning, and therefore the need for boosters, which has now been recognized. But data that you've been giving us have told us that if prior to having your double vaccination you had a proven COVID infection, your risk of waning is really very small indeed, and so you stay protected for much longer. And we're going to give you more details of this next week, but essentially this could mean that if this was taken into account, people like that who are really doubly protected may not need that booster quite so early and could wait longer. But it doesn't mean that you should rush out and try and get infected if you've had a vaccine, as has been happening by chance at the moment. We don't know that it has the same effect after vaccination as before. And obviously you run the risk of not only getting the infection badly, but transmitting and also getting long COVID, which is still out there and pretty common. So that's some good news about for those people who've suffered COVID. So in conclusion, rates are still high, still one of the highest in Europe, but currently the cases are pretty mild. We're seeing a drop in the numbers of people going to hospital, which is good news. It does need a careful eye on it as it spreads from one generation to another and will have different effects, and also different effects around the country. We're still stuck with this problem of colds and COVID and not being able to tell the difference, and it's always best to err on the side of caution, stay inside for a couple of days, get a lateral flow test until it becomes obvious which one of these it is. And do remember to get your vaccination, your second shot if you haven't had it, and sign up for your boosters when you get it, and try and encourage other people, because we do need to get our numbers up above this 66% where it seems to have stalled. And do keep sending us those cold-like symptoms. Don't worry about it thinking it's trivial. We are starting to do some analyses to try and tease these apart so we can tell how much colds are in a region and how much COVID is in a region, and allow you to make better choices. So your data is incredibly valuable for us, so do keep sending it in. That's it. Stay safe, keep logging, and thanks again for your amazing support, and keep liking and subscribing this channel.